trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another case study for you, and we have Megan on the call. So Megan, do you want to start by introducing yourself and letting everyone know what health issues you've been dealing with and how long these have been going on?
Yeah, great. So as you said, my name is Megan. I live in Montreal, Canada, and I'm in my 20s. And I had gut issues pretty much my whole life. Now that I think about it, it's just that when I was younger, it was really minor and didn't really link it to anything. As a child too, I was never really sick. Got like the few colds here and there, like every child, but nothing major. So health-wise, I was pretty great all my life. And then about 5 years ago, my issues began to get really bad. I started reacting to a lot of foods, especially animal products. I was always sick, stomach aches, a lot of pain. And so that's when I started looking with my doctor at what could have caused it. And we did like gluten test, lactose intolerance, and I had everything came back negative. So she just suggested that maybe I had something called IBS. So I looked it up, and it pretty much looked like all the symptoms I had were on that description. And so they just said to start and see what were triggers and to cut them from your diet to see how you felt. So that's what I did. And by doing that, I realized it was mostly animal products. So that's when I became vegan. And with the switch in that lifestyle, my symptoms, especially the digestive ones, improved a lot. But I could still feel some things weren't right, or that I was still tired, unmotivated. I still had some bloating and other like little gut issues here and there. And so I kept asking for tests and stuff like that, but she just ended up telling me that well, IBS is uncurable, and so since my symptoms were pretty minor and I could live with them, that I was pretty much stuck with them. And that's when I decided to go and find answers more on my own, or just try to see if there was something out there that could help me. And that's when I found your videos, and realized that it might be something else. And so I did the test, and here we are today.
Okay, cool. And just before we delve into the tests themselves,
Yeah.
Reversing back to 5 years ago when these issues really started to crank up in intensity, was there anything around that period of time in your life that you may you think back to that may have started to trigger some of these issues? So was there sort of antibiotic use, sort of stress in your life, poor dietary sort of patterns? Is there anything back then that you can think of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is. A few months or years prior to that, I started reacting strongly to some stuff. It was really precise. I remember it was like Caesar dressing, soft serve ice cream, and I don't remember. There's another one, but there was only those few things I knew would instantly make me sick. But then when I ended up like in Canada, in Quebec at least, we have something called CJEP that is in between high school and university. And so for the purpose of going to CJEP, I had to move. And I went and lived with some people that it didn't really work well with. And so emotionally, I got a bit, not in distress, but it was bad. And so that's when it flared up. So I think that could be what made it flare up. But I know some issues had started to pick up before that, but it just skyrocketed when I moved there, and I got stuck with it after I left. But yeah, that could be the reason why it flared so much.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, you know, there are a lot of different triggers for kind of SIBO and things like that, which we'll touch upon in a short while, because that was one of your issues. But yeah, absolutely, there are a number of different triggers for SIBO. So it could be sort of stress, which induces your sympathetic nervous system reaction, or you know, your fight or flight response. So then that can affect your gut motility. It could be antibiotic use. It could be poor diet and things like that. So there are obviously lots and lots of different triggers. So what would you say, obviously, once you spoke to your doctor, what are some of the things that you've tried between speaking to your doctor and taking these tests in terms of dietary modifications, supplements, or anything else?
Yeah, I never really used a lot of supplements in my life, and my doctor, except for like a blood test every year, she didn't do much. Just suggested maybe IBS and that maybe we could do a colonoscopy if my issues got like worse, but she said for now it wasn't really necessary. And so with her, I got to a dead end pretty fast. At the time too, I was on the pill, and maybe 2 years into my like the flare up of my issues, I quit the pill. And so I don't know if that helped on some levels, but I did that. And also, almost right at the beginning, the year after, I became vegan, and most of my issues, like I said, lifted, especially the gut issues that were mostly impairing with my life. I had something. I don't. The best way I had to describe it was like episodes. I would eat whatever food I would eat, and once I started feeling some few symptoms of like discomfort, I knew I had like 20 minutes to find a bathroom, and that then after that for like 40 minutes it'd be really painful and annoying. The best way I found to describe this pain was it was like somebody had twisted my intestines or my bowels, however you want to call it, and like with that sting feeling, and it would come in waves, and it was really really uncomfortable. And so when I went vegan, those issues, those episodes went away. I had almost one a week in the end, and once I shifted my diet, it became really insignificant, maybe 3 or 5 throughout the year. So I truly thank veganism a lot during that time. But I could still feel that my stomach wasn't right. It wasn't painful anymore, but it was still like heavy or um, so veganism didn't clear everything up. And then when I found your videos, once my doctor told me that I was pretty much stuck with it, I saw all the, and I looked at case studies and people talking about them having SIBO and everything. And I felt like it might not be what I had, since my gut issues when I went on the vegan diet cleared and improved, as a lot of ex-vegans say that it became worse when they went vegan. So I didn't do the SIBO test at first because I didn't think that was what I had, because I could still function pretty well. But I did the other two, and then you suggested to do the third one so that we had a more comprehensive image of all of my issues. And something that surprised me a lot was that you said that I was one of the worst cases you had seen in like months. And I was really, I couldn't believe it, because I felt like my gut issues were not that impairing. And so that's why I'm glad to do this video today, because maybe there's someone else who doesn't have major gut issues but could still have SIBO and just won't do the test because they don't think that's what they have. And so I strongly recommend anyone who has some gut issues and know that it's not right to just do the test, because you can be really surprised. My issues with SIBO were mostly mental or psychological. So yeah.
I mean, so just to recap then, Megan back did the SIBO organic acids test and comprehensive stool test. As Megan's alluded to there, she had one of the largest, or if not the largest, hydrogen dominant SIBO breath tests that I've seen to date. So usually a good strong case of hydrogen dominant SIBO will peak around sort of 40, 50, 60, 70 parts per million. Megan peaked at 344 parts per million, which is ridiculous, really. So I'll put that on screen now, so people can see sort of a typical sort of SIBO case, and then I'll put Megan's sort of breath test next to that, just so you can see you know the connection between them two. So yeah, that was particularly bad in terms of the SIBO. You also had some oxalates, but generally
Yeah.
speaking, everything else was generally okay on your test results. So there were
Yeah.
no inflammatory markers. There were no significant sort of digestion issues. So no fat malabsorption, no carbohydrate malabsorption, or anything like that, which was really good to see. So predominantly your issues were oxalates and obviously this big SIBO problem. So, do you want to just start? Well, do you just want to tell everyone, obviously, once you've started the treatment plan, what improvements that you initially started to notice, and then, really what you liked and disliked about the program?
Yeah. Well, at first, since one of the things I found a little hard was not to go back to a whole food plant-based diet, as that was pretty much what I was doing at the beginning. I follow people on YouTube like Maddie Limburner or Ellen Fisher who show like recipes that are pretty much whole foods. And so for me, it was pretty easy to go back to that. But the months prior to, or even the year prior to the program, since everything felt like a mountain or super hard to do, and I was unmotivated for everything, and so cooking became less important in my lifestyle. So my diet was I'd say how can I put it? Was not the best. I ate a lot of snacks instead of like whole food meals, and so maybe that's why I was more tired than usual at the beginning of the program, because my fuel was not the best. But then I switched back to a whole food plant-based diet, and I don't know if that's what helped at first, but I had a lot more energy. The only thing that was a bit hard was since I had high oxalate levels, I had to go on a low oxalate diet, and that meant for me mostly no nuts, except for like few pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. I remember I couldn't eat oats. I couldn't eat most beans, no tofu, so no soy in general. So to find proteins was a bit harder to make sure I was because I was always hungry. And probably also since I don't know how to put it, not detoxifying, but since I had eaten a lot of sugar and processed food, I was craving a lot of that stuff at the same time at the beginning. But then I just meal prep a bit more and was able to eat pretty fine. I ate pretty similarly, mostly the same foods all the time though, but it was fine. It was okay. Once you could find a recipe pretty much easily online, so if anyone's worried, you can figure it out, and you just need to prep and a bit more than you would usually do. And so that helped a lot with my energy, like I said, and I was really focused on my bloating issues, because that's what I thought I had. I hadn't realized how much mental issues, I mean like motivation, memory, stuff like that, I had until I started the program. And so my bloating didn't shift as I thought it would. I thought it was going to be like a day and night feeling, and that's not at all what happened. So I became a bit worried on the antibiotics that it might not be what I had. But towards the end, my semester at school started, and I realized that I could again grasp a lot better the information that I was getting in class. I could process it better. I retained it, as the few semesters before, I would go into class and I would forget what the teacher was saying as he was saying it. Or if I would get out of class, somebody just telling me, what did you see today? What did you learn? It was a blur. I couldn't really tell anymore. And that was really hard not to be able to focus as well. I remember telling people that I felt like my brain was saturated. It was like I couldn't put any more knowledge or more information in. It felt stuck, and it was weird because in my life I had always been a great student. I had always loved to learn, loved school, and so I thought I had peaked maybe, in that university was just too hard. And so to get that feeling again, that I could comprehend stuff and explain it to people, and I could really learn again, it was really fantastic. So yeah, my mental issues lifted pretty quickly with the antibiotics. And I'd say maybe, oh no, the bloating remained pretty much the same at the end of 30 days of antibiotics, but it helped a lot and reduced a lot with the supplements that I took afterwards. To now, right now, I'd say I'm about 15 to 20% for the remaining for the bloating, and for the rest of my symptoms, it's all lifted. And so, but we're not like totally done with the program, so maybe I could be at 0 for the bloating at the end. But as of now, as of today, I still have a little bit of bloating, but that's the only symptom I have now.
Yeah, I think it's you've touched upon a few different things there. So often when you have SIBO, it can impact on things like brain fog and sort of cognition issues, because a lot of your short chain fatty acids such as butyrate, propionate and stuff are produced in the gut. So if when you're eating fiber and carbohydrates, if that's not fermenting correctly and you're not then producing short chain fatty acids correctly, and then you're not producing the relevant sort of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, or epinephrine, that can have a significant impact on sort of brain fog and anxiety, depression, sleep problems, and things like that. So, yes, SIBO can often sort of go hand in hand with brain fog and cognition issues. In terms of what you touched upon with the antibiotics, so Megan obviously took, was it rifaximin you took?
Yeah.
Took initially. So yeah, Megan took rifaximin initially because her levels were so elevated. It would make sense if you have a significant elevation in rifaximin that you take an antibiotic to start with, because natural antimicrobials, they will work, they will just take significantly longer to fix the issue. So rifaximin, you can take sort of a couple of cycles of that and it will reduce the hydrogen levels very quickly. Whereas a natural antimicrobial, well, say rifaximin took sort of 6 weeks to fix the issue, then with a natural antimicrobial, you may be looking at 6, 12, 18, 24 weeks to resolve the same sort of issue. So if you've been dealing with that for a significant period of time, then rifaximin can very quickly reduce those hydrogen levels and just bring down some of those symptoms to a much more manageable level. Once you've got the hydrogen or methane down to a manageable level, then it's often worth doing or necessary to do sort of a gut protocol after that, just to build up your gut integrity, and also just as a sanity check, just to make sure the SIBO's gone, which in Megan's case it hadn't. So we do things in the gut protocol such as glutamine and chlorella and marine phytoplankton and things like that to build up the gut integrity and gut health. And we also use some fermented foods and things like that to boost your beneficial bacterial levels. But we also use natural antimicrobials as well, just to eradicate any remaining sort of hydrogen in the small intestines. So that remaining sort of 5 or 10% or 20% in sort of gas and bloating that Megan has at the moment, we're just kind of eradicating that over the next few weeks. And then I fully sort of envisage that, all of those symptoms will dissipate. But I think from where you started with 344 parts per million peak hydrogen levels, it's kind of incredible that you're kind of where you are now already. And I think I've seen people with SIBO who have had to quit jobs with hydrogen levels around 30, 40, 50 million sort of parts per million, whereas you are kind of 7, 8, 9 times some of those levels. So it's incredible that it's not impacted you more on a daily basis. But the numbers don't always necessarily correlate with symptoms, so that may play into it as well. So there's obviously a lot going on there. You've had a number of different issues, like you say, some of those have been resolved now, which is really good. We've got the gas and bloating, which we need to resolve fully, but we're fully on the way to resolving that now. So any advice that you would give for others with these type of issues? So at the moment we're seeing a lot of ex-vegans on the internet saying, like, I had all these gas and bloating issues, I couldn't eat any fruits and vegetables, therefore fruits and vegetables are bad. What would you say to these type of people?
I'd say make research, because we're not doctors, so just because we reacted, or I didn't really react, that's why I thought I didn't have SIBO. Fiber didn't make my symptoms, my digestive issues flare up, so I don't know what it's like to experience that, but I just knew I had to find answers and find make tests or find something to just tell me what's going on, what's the underlying issue, because sometimes it's just symptoms, but just because you treat a symptom doesn't mean that you've treat the root cause. It's the same thing. That's why I quit the pill too, because it's just helping to regulate, if I can put it like that, your period. But if you have issue that makes it that you're not having regular periods, then you're not treating that. So that's what I think people should do first, is try to find the root cause behind their issues, because the food we're eating is just a symptom that is being flared up by whatever other issue we have that we're not addressing. And for me to don't give up, because I felt like I knew something wasn't right, and my doctor had kind of gave up. She said that it was IBS and I was stuck with it. If you feel it's not right, try to do tests or find someone who can help you or know more about nutrition, because unfortunately doctors, or at least my doctor, I feel like is not really has not really learned a lot about it, so she's not aware of all the new information that is out there. So yeah, just persevere and find it, because if I hadn't done all of the work I had, I would still be stuck with all of those issues, thinking I was just stuck with it, while it was not the case. So yeah, that's what I would have to say.
Okay. Final question then. So, what sort of impact has all of this had on your quality of life? So, if you think back to sort of before you looked at doing these tests and your symptoms back then compared to where they are now, what's the difference, or the net positive difference for you in terms of daily quality of life?
Yeah, like I was saying, I'm a student right now in university in accounting, so it's a demanding program. You need to use your brain a lot, and you have to learn fast. And so I had always been a student that had good grades without studying a lot, and that was not the case anymore. And so even though I was putting time, I couldn't focus for more than 20 or 30 minutes. I had to take a break, or I wouldn't be able to focus anymore. And that was hard, because when you have to do a 15, 20 pages work, and you can't study for more than 15 minutes, it makes it really hard. And since I was not motivated a lot, I was postponing studying. And so then I would be in a lot of rush and felt like I couldn't intake anything, and will have after that some not average grades instead of great grades I could have had if I had studied more. So my study schedule was really impacted by that, since I couldn't retain anything. Usually going to class was the thing that was helping me the most, because that's when I retained the most, and I couldn't do that anymore. So that was really stressful, to feel like I couldn't grasp anything anymore. I couldn't retain anything. And I was scared for my grades, because I want to go and do other things after that, and I need a good GPA. And so it was really stressful. And also, since I had to move for university, I need to work to pay for everything. And so having a busy schedule and being always tired makes it hard to wake up in the morning. Like I would make myself breakfast the night before, just because I knew I wouldn't want to take the time and do food or do anything in the morning. So it was really impairing with being productive. And now it's like my brain took a nap or went to sleep and got his 8 hours, and is now ready to attack, ready to do anything. I'm having stamina now. I have motivation. I'm consistent with the gym now. While before, even if I wanted to go and I liked going to the gym, it just felt too complicated and too hard to just take a bus, go there, do it, come back. Even going out with friends seemed complicated because I had to dress up, go, and so I started being more of a loner too. Now I'm going out again with friends, I'm having fun. It's a lot more light, a lot more pleasant than it was before. Before, it felt a bit more like a machine, just going through the day, doing tasks and trying to get it done. While now it's a lot more fun. Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry, I have one other question for you that I forgot to ask earlier on, actually. So, a lot of people on the internet, and there is a lot of misinformation out there. They will say that you can't resolve sort of SIBO type of issues on sort of a plant-based diet because obviously there is that school of thought which, you know, bacteria within the small intestines feeds on fiber and carbohydrates. So you need to stop that fuel source at a root cause. So what would you say to people who say that you can't resolve these type of digestive issues on sort of a plant-based or vegan diet? Now, obviously, yes, you had the antibiotic intervention just because of the severity of the hydrogen in your small intestines. But beyond that, just talk about sort of your diet with on the program, because obviously there were small amounts of restrictions around oxalates and things like that.
Yeah.
These are temporary interventions until you've got the gut healed up, and then you can start sort of moving forward. So do you want to just talk very quickly about sort of plant-based diets, vegan diets, and these type of gut issues and what you found in terms of dietary restriction?
Yeah, well, for me, as I said, when I was eating an, let's say, normal or standard diet, that's when I felt worse, because to me, especially dairy was a big trigger of my stomach issues. I would have diarrhea and everything. So when I shifted to vegan diet, all of those issues lifted, and just the right fuel, even though, how can I put it? When you eat clean, you get all the nutrients, the vitamins, and everything that you need. As before, when I was doing the standard diet, it was more of processed foods, fats, meat. I know meat was making me really tired, and I didn't know why. I would need to take a nap after eating such a way. And now that it's, I don't know, for me, it was just day and night feeling, going vegan versus eating normal diet. So I can't say that it's impossible to do it, because I did it and I felt great and better. I would never go back. Even if someone told me that I would not have issues anymore, would I change back to a normal or standard diet? And I wouldn't. I love how I feel now. All of other issues I had lifted. I have energy, and it's cheaper to use for a student diet. It's a student my pocket. It's really appreciated. So yeah, it's totally possible. I did it, and so if once you get the bacterias out, to restore everything, using whole foods is, I feel, the best thing you can do. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I just want to say very quickly, just to reiterate, it's been a pleasure working with you over the last few weeks. We've obviously still got that last 20% in terms of the gas and bloating, but that will dissipate very quickly over the coming weeks when we finish up the protocols, and no doubt about that. Maybe we can get you on as a just a recap call in sort of 3 or 4 weeks or so once you've eradicated the remaining issues. Just so people can obviously see that you've finally cleared everything once and for all. But beyond that, like I say, it's been a pleasure working with you. I look forward to working with you over the next few weeks. Anything else that you would like to add?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. But thanks to you, I'm really glad I found this information online, because my doctor was not really aware of the symptoms or the issue, and so I'm really glad now that we can have access to knowledge from all around the world instead of being stuck with only what we have here. So yeah, I'm really thankful to have found your videos.
So my pleasure. So yeah, look, so much for joining, everyone. Thanks, Megan, for the call today. As I say, I look forward to working with you over the next few weeks, and yeah, we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you.